poll basically said, what do you think is the one thing missing from 40k right now? What would you like to see added and returned? The overwhelming answer that came back was flavor. The rules were balanced but bland. After that, people said they wanted models. They felt like the recent releases were kind of weak. And then after that, balance, creating Grotmus, and after that, nothing. People said they liked it the way it was. So 63% of people said they wanted more flavor, 17% of people said they wanted models, 14% of people said they wanted more balance, and 4% of people said nothing. I like it the way it is. I think that is a very, very, very interesting and significant poll. Even though it was only a relatively small numbers, I bet you could do that on a much larger scale and you would probably get similar percentages. You know, give or take 5 or 10% here and there. Let's start off with the positives. Never in my life would I ever have thought that the community would say that flavor was missing over balance. What that kind of says is that the vast majority of people who play 40k right now feel that the game is reasonably balanced. All of the Longbeards here, all of the Grognards here, all of you OGs, even if you've only played one other edition, be it like 9th edition or something, let's just take a moment to fucking realize, is this proof we're living in the Matrix? 40k is balanced? It's never been done. Now, we like to say that as a bit of a meme and a bit of a joke on this channel. But this time we're saying it seriously. It's never been done. Now, I think what's important, I think there would be some people that see that or hear me say 40k is balanced will scoff and say, no, it's not. And you could definitely point to many, many examples where things aren't balanced. I think there's a long way to go. I think that there are still incredibly obviously better choices within codexes, within factions. There's a lot of internal balance issues. And I think, you know, the fact that most factions, you know, the top factions are a 60% win rate, bottom faction at 40% win rate, that's like a 20% difference. That's a big percentage point difference. But every single faction has ways of winning games. I don't think you're ever going to get it where factions have got ways, every single faction can win a tournament, every single faction will be able to win a super major. There's always going to be some next level, whether it's next level skill or next level list building or just next level abilities, where some factions are going to be able to win tournaments more than not. But the general consensus does seem to be that every faction, even Imperial agents, can win games. You can, if you put a bit of research in, watch a few battle reports, play a few games, if you put a bit of practice in, build up a reasonable collection of models, then you are able to put together a list that can go to a tournament, and you shouldn't lose every single game. If you've practiced, put effort in, and are not running a meme build, you should be able to go to tournament and come away without being whitewashed, which is fantastic. I think it also goes to show, if we look around, that not necessarily at local level, but at larger sort of major and above levels, and also I'd say even larger GTs as well, nearly every faction is represented all the time. Sure, there are some which are more represented than others. You see a lot of Eldar, you see a lot of Custodes. So not everything is perfectly balanced, but every faction has got viable tools in the toolbox. And I think really where balance is, what really determines factions' popularity these days is basically twofold. I think, interestingly, and this might be a steaming hot take, I think that secondary to what holds a faction back is monetary cost. I know some people might say, but 40k is really, really expensive. Look, 40k is expensive, but there are a lot of avenues out there to get it for cheaper. You've got 3D printing, you've got third parties, you've got second-hand sales, you've got buy-sell trade. It's not cheap, but there are ways you can take the edge off. Which I know, but I don't think financial cost is often what holds people back. Tends to be ergonomics. Now, that's both in-game ergonomics and real-life ergonomics. So, real-life ergonomics would be, I would say, like how easy models and factions are seen as being able to like build and collect. So, for example, I think one of the things that holds AdMech back a lot is the models are relatively fiddly, and so players, and they have that reputation of being quite fiddly, and so it tends to be like, well, if the faction's not that good and it's fiddly as fuck, and then it's kind of expensive, that all sort of feeds into just generally being a bit ergonomically a bit iffy. But I actually think in-game ergonomics is the real deal. And when I say in-game ergonomics, what I mean is how easy is the army to pilot. If you get to the end of, let's say, a GT, and your brain is leaking out the side of your ears, then that means an army is not easy to pilot. Its rules are unergonomic. It's probably not the right term, but I'm butchering a term to prove a point. But if you have a faction like Custodes, where it's like model count's relatively low, models are fairly easy to put together, apart from the bikey ones, they're a bit of a pisser. And I get to the end of a tournament, and I get to the end of the tournament, I can still hold down a conversation and go out for beers with the lads and go out for a bit of a night out. Sure. Yeah. I think that's one thing that really holds back faction popularity. Long story short, like, the general consensus is that 40k does seem realistically balanced, and I really can't stress how much of a good thing that is. I really can't stress it. I've been wanking off Horse Heresy a lot recently. I'll openly admit it. I've been glazing it. I've been really enjoying it. It definitely feels like Old Hammer, but that's Old Hammer warts and all. And earlier in the stream, we were looking at how you can run an army which is 160 infantry, all leadership 11, which is basically in 40k terms the equivalent of being leadership 2+. You can only 3+. You can only fail if you roll a double 1. Stubborn and all this kind of stuff. So you have 12 vanquishers and then 160 unbreakable infantry. Like, that's really cool as an idea. It's like, yeah, I can spam vanquishers and infantry. This is real god. But also, it's wildly unbalanced. I think it is worth taking a moment to acknowledge that 40k has done what, in my 25 years of playing this game, and in my 12 years of playing this game competitively, has never been achieved before. It has achieved relative balance, which is phenomenal. However, whilst it is very heartwarming, and whilst it is very admirable that the mythical balance seems to be within sight and almost within our fingertips, there is some negatives, and I think that is the flavor. One thing I never really realized how important flavor was until it started to go away bit by bit. I do think that it's mad. I do think it's very mad, and I know that it's very GW might be throwing their hands up in anguish right now and being like, God, we can never please these players. We can never please them. No, GW. I think you do deserve great merit for balance being in the game. I do. It's something that I personally have asked for a long time. Well, how to put this? I'm a competitive player. I've always pushed for more balance. When things are broken, I've always been the first to rage against the machine. And when things are balanced, even when we don't like it, I've always been when a nerf has come out, even for my beloved guard, I've always been the first one to go, guys, it was broken. Like, a lot of people strongly disagreed with me. I said from the beginning that Scions with Deep Strike in Bridgehead was utterly broken. And that Scions should have lost Deep Strike to keep balance. And that if all of you guys, everyone who was gnashing their teeth at Scions losing Deep Strike, didn't look past their immediate future, they would come to regret it. And so GW, rather than taking Deep Strike away from Scions to balance them out, knowing that Bridgehead was, part of the equation, instead fucked Bridgehead and then fucked Scions for everyone else. And even though that was an extremely heavy nerf for one of my coolest favorite ways of playing Guard, which is pure Scions, not a year goes by when I don't play pure Scions competitively. It's a tradition. I always do it every year. Not a year goes by without me doing that. I was the first one to say, yep, that was necessary. What do you think was going to happen? That was a necessary step. There was a lot of collateral damage, but it was a necessary step. Likewise, even though when my favorite stratagem reinforcements got nerfed into the ground, I was one of the first to say, yeah, I'm not surprised it got nerfed. It makes sense. Whilst there was a lot of collateral damage from it, I understood it. In one game, in one battle round, I brought back 80 infantry because I just had so many CP saved up. Or 60. 60 infantry. My opponent killed 60 infantry, every single one of them marched back on the board. Because there were different phases and I had enough CP saved up for it. I'm a competitive player. I seek balance. I always try and improve my lists. I always try and bring the best that I can do. Occasionally, I like to bring meme lists, but it's always been trying to do the best I can do within the meme. It's a challenge. I should be happy right now with where 40k is. I should be. But I'm not. And I try and maintain positivity. I try. And I always say to you guys, let's pivot, improvise, adapt, overcome. When they take one thing away from us, switch to another thing. When infantry squads went away, switch over to Cadians. When Kriegers, when Katjans get nerfed, get cheap Sentinels for doing your scout. When Blobguard looked like it was going down the shitter, pivot to Met Guard. I'm always the first that will do that. Always the first that I'll try and maintain that positivity. And I should be happy. Like I said, I should be happy right now. But the reality of the situation is that I am really struggling to enjoy 40k. And it's not a case of not winning games. It's not a case of, oh, Mordian, you've not been winning games or anything. I've won plenty recently. In fact, the last game that I played against Simon, I beat him handily. Last tournament I went to, super major, I ran many infantries, and I came away with 2 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. And I should have come away with 4 wins. I should have gone 4-0. Just a couple of I literally added the points up wrong in one game, so it came to a loss when it should have been a win. And one of the games that I drew, I actually did win, but my opponent had given me, it was round 5. I had a very nice game versus an opponent, and I'd actually timed out because I was knackered from running a 200 guardsman, and my opponent had graciously allowed me to use 5 minutes of his time, which he didn't need to let me do. So when it got to the end of the game and I was 3 points ahead, I said to my opponent, I wouldn't have got those 3 points without you, mate. So why don't we shake hands, call it a draw, and we can end this tournament on a sporting note. It's not a problem of me. It's not a case of me winning games. It's not a case of me being a salty boy because I've not been winning. I think it feels like 40k is suffering from an arbitrary bullshit problem. I guess that's the thing that's really, and you start working out again. I do start working out again, but it's not that either. I've been getting more fresh air recently, and I've been getting more exercise recently. The other day I'd worked out so much I was struggling to walk up and down the stairs because my legs were aching so much, and so I'm in relatively good shape, relatively good fitness. So it's not that, but it's the arbitrary bullshit problem, which I think is tainting 40k and is really messing with my head. So in 40k, I think it's an abstract problem as well. I think there's a problem of abstractness in 40k as well. So a good example, so firstly you've got abstractness in the rules. I know it's an old gripe, but a lack of vehicle facings, a lack of vehicle armor. Why the fuck can a lasgun damage a land raider? It never should be able to, ever, under any circumstances. Like, I can get a gun in real life now, and I could shoot it an infinite number of times at, well, maybe not an infinite times, I could shoot it 1,000,000 times at like a main battle tank. Let's say I get an AK-47 and I shoot 1,000,000 rounds that AK-47 at an Abrams. I'm never gonna damage it. Never. I'm gonna scratch the paint. I'm never gonna knock it out. I'm gonna scratch the paint, maybe fuck up a few cameras and lenses and shit. I don't fucking know. But the point is, I'm never going to. But in 40k, for some reason, everything can damage everything, which isn't the case in real life. I know you could say, but it's not real life. You know, who knows how powerful lads can. Okay, yeah, but then you're getting abstract, and it's like there's a thing that people like to do where they're like, oh, but it's like it's all made up, so the rules can be anything. Yeah, they did that with Star Wars, and look how much that franchise shit the bed. When things stop having any meaning, it becomes abstract, it becomes immersion breaking. And I like to be immersed. I like armies to look like armies, not like a collection of units on the table. It's another big problem with 40k at the moment, I would say. But the other thing, I think, do you know what? I wouldn't even say abstractness in the rules is even my main gripe. I'm not even that bothered about it. Sure, maybe a lasgun shouldn't be able to kill a knight, but whatever. I will play a game within the rules of that game. And I will accept that makes sense within that universe. It's the arbitrary bullshit problem is when it comes to, and it leaks into the rules. While keeping it real. And I think this is what's destroying the flavor of 40k. Why can I only give... Why are the loadouts for my squads so restrictive? And I'm playing Guard, where loadouts are still relatively good. But it's like, why can that Cadian squad only take 1 melter gun and 1 plasma gun? Why can't I give it double plasma gun? Why can't it just be, here are 2 special weapons, here are a list of the weapons... Take 2 of whatever you want. Well, because we only give you 2. We only give you 1 melter gun and 1 plasma gun in the box. GW. When players said we don't want to have to go and buy 2 boxes of Devastators to be able to build 4 las cannons, we didn't mean you then went, well, how about you can only take 2 las cannons? What we meant was put 4 fucking las cannons in the box. That's what. It's this arbitrary bullshit problem. And we're not just talking about like weapon options and shit like this. It's like a lot of flavor comes from giving the players the power. Giving the players the power. That's the biggie. That's where I think the flavor's gone. That's what I think is the result of this arbitrary bullshit. The player is losing power. The player is losing responsibility. The player is losing control. When there's data sheets for things that don't exist, then players are able to go out, or when there's like weapons for things that don't exist, players are able to go out and customize things as much as they want. Players are able to go out and build truly unique forces. But when there's this massive arbitrary onus, this massive like in a funny sort of way self-imposed, but also imposed by Games Workshop, like you must have the models, the right models, they must be on the right bases, and that you can own, there are only 3 types of guardsmen you can take. Like, why can't the Rogel Dawn take plasma cannon sponsons? Because we didn't put them in the box. Why didn't you just say it could take them? Because what do you mean? You could have just said the Rogel Dawn could take plasma cannon sponsons, but it doesn't come with them, so it can't take them. It's funny the moment I came to the realization that the reason the Rogal Dawn has always felt fucky, literally, even since 9th edition, the reason the Rogal Dawn has never felt quite right is because it can't take plasma sponsons. Anyone here who's ever used a Rogal Dawn, think back upon all the games that you've ever run it. How many fucking times would it have been really fucking nice to have plasma cannon sponsons? Like, it sounds like such a small thing. It sounds like a nothing thing. It sounds like I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. But it's like, well, I can choose enemy bolters, which have got the range and the shots but no AP. Or I can choose in the multi-melters, which have got no range, less shots, but all the AP. But what if I'm the kind of player that wants to pick between those? Can't do it. Why? It's just annoying. And so it's not a game-breaking thing. But this is the problem with the arbitrary bullshit. Individually, when looked at in isolation, these arbitrary bullshit things are small. Only having arbitrary restrictions on special weapons. Having arbitrary restrictions on what units can exist because they don't sell them, so they won't make models for them. Arbitrary restrictions about what weapons, what kind of weapons you can take on, like sponsons and stuff. Like, individually, all of these small, like, arbitrary decisions made around, like, you didn't want power level, so we brought points, but the points are power level. Like, it's all of these little things that exist, and they exist for no in-universe describable reason. It's when they all add up. That is what fucks. That is what's fucking with 40k. Individually, they're not a big deal, but it's like the straws that are breaking the camel's back. It's like that scene in A Bug's Life. One ant isn't a big deal, but all of the ants coming at you at once, that's really difficult. That's really difficult. And so I'm not bothered by any of these things individually, but I'm bothered by all of these arbitrary things have come in, and they are what's kind of like taking away from the flavor. Because here's one thing I want to address, because I think there's definitely a counter argument to this that someone could come in with, right? Someone could come in and say, but Mordian, it's up to you, the player, to homebrew, to headcanon, to add the flavor in. Mordian, where did all of the lore from the Mordian 50th Rifles come from? And I think that's a great point. Like, I think that is a good point. But one thing that I have, and that's what I always used to say, but I used to say it, and then I used to think, why haven't I engaged with any lore recently? Why haven't I engaged? Why haven't I engaged with it? The issue is you don't need a lot of flavor to inspire imagination. That's the thing, right? Lore and flavor is there to inspire players. It's not there to tell you exactly what to do. It's not there where to tell you what you can and can't do. It's there to inspire. Like, this is not a good example. I may end up taking this back, but this is sort of coming to me now. There are good teachers and bad teachers in schools, right? Everybody remembers the bad teachers. Well, you tend to remember teachers that were like bullies, but nobody really remembers the uninspiring teachers. No one really remembers them. And it's why? Those teachers still taught and they still passed information on to you, but you don't remember it, and often the shit they taught you didn't retain, or you weren't interested in their subject that they were teaching. And then you had those teachers, and the reason that subject at school was your favorite subject was because the teacher inspired you. I remember, I barely remember most of the teachers that I had at secondary school now. If I really cast my mind back, I could think about them. But I'll always remember, I won't say his name because it's unlikely it would result in anything, but you got to be careful. We'll say Mr. L. I'll always remember Mr. L. Mr. L was my favorite teacher at school, and he was unbelievably charismatic. And he was actually, the school that I went to was, interestingly, it's what we call in the UK a grammar school. A lot of people don't like grammar schools. We're not going to get into the politics of it, but long story short, there are basically three kinds of school in the UK. You've got private education, public education, and you've got grammar schools. Private education, you pay for it. Public education, pay for it, often seen as getting a better education. A lot of people don't like it because they see it as pay to win. Then you've got public education, whatever, you know, the free one, the state one, and you've got what's called grammar schools in the UK. And grammar schools is free, funded by the state, but it's seen as getting a private school level of education, but for free. And the way you get it is you have to be able to, there's no funding, money doesn't mean anything. Not the one I went to anyway. The one I went to, it was full of people from what would be described as the wrong side of the tracks. I wasn't quite that bad, but there was no way I'd ever would have gone to private school. The only way you could get it is if you had to keep your grades up. It was kind of like getting a scholarship. Okay, so the government would pay for you to get it was run by the government. You didn't go to a private school. It's run by the government, but you had to keep your grades up. And the moment your grades slipped, they kicked you out. Literally, end of each year, were your grades good enough? No, you're gone. We're putting you in the normal school again. In my school, it wasn't just you had to pass a test to get in, and then you had to keep your grades up every single year. So my teacher, Mr. L, used to work in like an inner city school where he actually got paid quite well because he was dealing with some pretty difficult circumstances, and he actually took quite a significant pay cut because he wanted to come and basically teach people that wanted to be there, essentially. And I think that was that's actually that is something you can respect. You know, someone voluntarily taking quite a significant pay cut because they want to teach. They want to teach, right? So that was one of the big things. So that's why I mentioned this whole thing. That's why one of the big things that he was very inspiring for. But just generally, he would have what the kids would call the Riz. Now, you remember, and because of him, I went on to study the subject that he taught me at the beginning of secondary school. I went on to study that for my GCSEs. I went to study that for my A levels. Then I went to university, and I studied it for 3 years at university and did a year's work placement. And then when I came out of university, I went and I did my degree. Somewhat used my degree in the field. All of that started because at the age of 11, I was inspired by a teacher. That is the power of inspiration. Now, obviously, that's a much more important and significant example. Not quite on the same level as 40k. But the principle still stands. Lore and flavor and immersion serve to inspire. How many times have you wanted to go and collect an army, or collect a type of collect a type of army within the faction you already play? Maybe you've always wanted to play Pure Infantry Guard. Maybe you've always wanted to play like classic Krieg Siege or something. Or maybe you've been thinking of getting a palette cleanser. You're like, I'd love to go and play like an unending swarm of Tyranids. That would be great, right? Yeah, that'd be cool. And then you've had the idea, you've been inspired by the idea, and then you've gone to the rules and it's not possible. Or it is possible, but it's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel right on the tabletop. And so you don't bother, because you basically become uninspired. You had the moment of inspiration. I'm using the word too much. You had the moment, you had the idea, you were hyped up for it, and then you go to see if it's possible, and you're like, fuck this. Nah, it was a cool idea, but it doesn't really work. Don't care about the power of it. It's just like, I can't run it, so I won't. That's the problem that 40k has right now. There's a lot of arbitrary reasons, and all of these real life factors which are dictating what's happening in the game. It breaks the immersion. it stops you from getting inspired. It stops you from getting fucking hyped up. 40k has a hype problem. It doesn't have a balance problem. It doesn't have a balance problem at all. If anything, as we've said, 40k is more balanced than it ever has been. But it has a hype problem. Oh, I'd love to be able to take like a squad of like Kazakin and give them like 4 flamers. It's not good. It'd be really cool to like, you know, have a full-blown like purgation squad, like 4 flamers on the Kazakin, flame pistol on the Kazakin sergeant, you know, maybe a heavy flamer or something in there. But you never do that. Why? Because A, you can't take 4 flamers. B, you can't take a flame pistol on the sergeant. And C, because it wouldn't be any good. Now, if Kazakin started off at like 70 points, and it was 15 points to add each plasma gun and melter gun on, but only 5 points to add each flamer on, maybe you'd give it a go, because you'd be like, hey, that full plasma melter squad, that's going to cost me, what, like 130 points to do that? Shit, man. Shit. That's a lot of points. Yeah, it's really good, but that's a lot of points. But if I go for the like 90 point option with the 4 flamers, or 100 point option, maybe it's worth giving it a go. But because there was an arbitrary decision made to get rid of granular points, and as a result, the knock-on effect of that is everyone just takes the best option all the time. And there's no argument about what the best option is. Because how can you argue it? Why would you ever take a flamer over a melter gun? Over a plasma gun? You never would. So that decision was made. Granular points was made. Removing granular points is made because it's easier to balance around. If you assume everyone is taking the best option, it's easier to balance around that. That's why it's done. But it's all of these, like I said, it's all these things that add up and they make you uninspired. And so I think that's the problem 40k has right now. It has it on a micro level when it comes to individual units, and it has it on a macro level when it comes to restrictions on like whole armies. And I think there's no you could say, but how you could, there's loads of ways you can kind of like justify it. You could be like, well, Mordian, surely it's an arbitrary decision to say you can get 2 special weapons in a special weapons squad. Why wouldn't they all have melter guns? It's like, well, that's not an arbitrary decision. You can easily explain why. Because it's the same reason why we don't give every single person in a current army like the best, what we call like the best, trying to think of an example. Why don't we give every single person in the current army like a saw? Why are we giving them like M4s? Why the fuck? Why isn't everyone? Why are we just giving everyone the best option all of the time? Why aren't we giving everyone the latest fucking super battle rifle? Because it's expensive. Because there's only so many of each thing that can be produced. Because it's more, because over time militaries have done loads of analysis around efficiencies, and like you have one guy with this and everyone can huff ammo with, and that's actually more effective. And there's all sorts. Point is, you can just say, because it would be too costly for the Imperium to equip a bunch of guardsmen. It'd be too costly for the Imperium to equip a bunch of guardsmen, every single one of them with a las cannon. So they don't. It would make, but do you see what I mean? But then you say, okay, well, each guardsman get like 2 special weapons. Why can't they take 2 of the same? What's the in-universe explanation? Why? Because you could say, well, maybe they're like mixing and matching. Maybe it's because they've only got so many plasma guns, so many melter guns to go around. Okay, well, why wouldn't they concentrate 2 melter guns? Why can't I go, okay, if I've only got If I've only got 8 melter guns and 8 plasma guns in my that are available, why wouldn't I concentrate them? Have a couple of melter guns here, a couple of plasma guns there. Doctrine. What? So every Imperial Guard army follows the exact same doctrine now? What the fuck? Obviously not. There are a million different fighting styles from a million different worlds. Obviously not. If it's not just easy to fucking explain an in-universe reason why... If it's not easy to explain an in-universe reason why there's a restriction in place, then it's an arbitrary bullshit thing. And if it's an arbitrary bullshit thing, then it starts fucking with immersion. If it starts fucking with immersion, it starts fucking with inspiration. And it doesn't matter how balanced you make the game, people are going to start feeling like they can't square the circle. And that is the issue with 40k right now. They have fixed balance, but they've fixed balance and they've not tried to keep immersion and inspiration. And I know you're all going to go mad at me, but I promise you this is a 40k focused thing, not a heresy focused thing. If your account just goes, but no, trust me, I'm just using heresy as an example. I know I've been talking about heresy too much recently, so I'm trying to talk more about. I'm trying to get back on the 40k train. But I cannot exaggerate this. I cannot exaggerate this enough. And it's going to sound silly, and it's going to be like, but more, it's just a game of toy soldiers. You shouldn't, why are you making such a big deal out of this? It's all fair enough. When I looked at those Imperialist militia rules, and this free PDF had more inspiring lore in a few when it there's a sentence in this free PDF, the sentence that says it is not uncommon to see due to the nature of the Imperialist militia and the way equipment was stored and everything, it's not uncommon to see a man wearing tribal furs piloting a Baneblade, commanding a Baneblade. It's like, it's crazy, it's ridiculous, but I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that. Let's compare that to 40k. Where did the Rogel Dawn come from? What's the lore behind the Rogel Dawn? Where was the STC discovered? Why hasn't it been available to the Guard before? Fuck it. Did Karl invent it? We don't know. Why? It'd take you like one sentence, GW. Why haven't you done it? Can you not be bothered? And then I go and look at the unit entries, and it's like, look at this. Look at this, man. This is your Imperialist Militia Command Cadre. This is the equivalent. This is your equivalent of your command squad, whether it's Cadian, Catachan, whatever, it's equivalent of your command squad. Firstly, you can take your command squads in 20-man blobs. Why? Why would you want to? You probably never would, but you can. But you can. What's the difference between a las pistol and an auto pistol? Are they the same weapon? Are they all, like las pistols and auto pistols are the same thing in 40k? No. Auto pistols and las pistols have different rules. Any of your militia bodyguard can take a shotgun. You can have a squad of 20 guys running around with bolt guns in the Guard. Why? Because this is the command cadre. These guys get access to more equipment than anybody else because these are the guys that are running the fucking show. So, of course, they're going to be able to get access to better equipment than, I don't know, the fucking militia levy squad, who are 2 points a model. 20 dudes for 40 points, who could be taken in blobs of 50. And you might be like, well, these guys are clearly broken, blobs of 50 infantry. No, they're not broken, because the moment they fail a battle shock test, every single one of them is removed. Imagine if you failed a battle shock test, guys, and you lost an entire platoon of guardsmen. And then imagine that platoon of guardsmen was 50 strong. And you might be like, okay, So that's done for balance reasons, right? That's done for balance reasons. It's because obviously being able to run a big block of 50 guys that you might be able to make like leadership 9, like re-rollable via like commissars and stuff. That's like leadership 9 would be the equivalent of being like leadership 5 plus in 40k. Like that would be really too strong. So obviously they've done this to balance it, but what happens? Do they all just like in 40k they would never explain why they disappear? Think about it. In 40k, if a rule like this existed, it would exist, but there wouldn't be an in-universe explanation for why. Does Heresy explain it? Oh yeah, it does. In primitive or aggressive cultures, the levies may consist of probators. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, here we go. Or thrall troops captured from rival gangs, basically prisoners. Such squads are rarely well equipped and must often be herded into battle by a stern overseer, or equipped with discipline collars that terminate the lives of the entire band in the event of them attempting to flee or mutiny. That's right. The reason why they all explode is because the moment it looks like the prisoners are wavering and they might turn their guns on the people on the prison guard, the prison commissar goes, nope, beep, kills them all. So there's a reason why. So there's an in-game balance reason for why. There's an in-game reason why, but there's also an in-universe reason why, and it's a little throwaway sentence. How grimdark is that? How fucking grimdark is that? Where's that in my fucking 40k? You know, where's that in my 40k? Like, why do Cadians get the benefit of cover being on an objective? Why? They get it because it's their ability, but why? There needs to be a little sentence which is like, Cadians specialise in digging in and holding ground. Ever since Cadia fell, imagine this little bit of lore. Ever since Cadia fell, every Cadian has firmly believed that it was because that despite their best efforts, their defences were not sufficient. And now, at any opportunity, Cadian soldiers will be seen filling sandbags and digging foxholes, making sure that never again will their defenses be found wanting. It's like 3 sentences, and suddenly it explains, and now we know. Now we know why Cadians get it. But the reason they get it is because it's an in-game arbitrary decision. You just need a little bit of flavour. A little bit of flavour goes a lot. Little bit of flavor can counteract the arbitrary bullshit. If you can give me just a little bit of flavor explaining why there are these restrictions in place, why these things happen, what is the in-universe thing that's happening, I'm right fucking there. I'm right there. I'll back you to the fucking hilt. Why is the Rogue all Dawn there? Where did it come from? Like some abilities explain themselves, like rattling, shoot, sharp, and scarper, shoot out, and then they move. Yeah, that explains itself. But some of them don't. But also, I do think there has to be an element of. There also has to be an element of, like we said, you need to be able to have. You need to be able to have things like every man being able to take a shotgun, even though, because if you look at what shotguns do, boys, they're absolutely dog shit. They're absolutely dog shit. Okay, let's have a look here. Shotgun. 12-inch range, strength 3, assault 2. Fucking awful. Stub carbine. 12-inch range, assault 3. Fucking... On a 6x4 board, that shit never get into fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's loads of... There's no one's ever going to take a fucking shotgun. No one's ever going to take a fucking stub carbine. Do you know what I mean? Except, you know what? There's going to be one dude out there. Maybe not one dude. There's going to be several dudes out there that would be like, I want to create an entire... My command squads are going to be given shotguns. Because I'm going to take command squads with shotguns. And they're going to be the police. They're going to be the Arbites. And then I'm going to take bricks of 50 conscript prisoners. And... I'm going to head swap guys with, I'm going to get guards and bodies, and I'm going to head swap so they've got police visors, and I'm going to kit bash, or I'm going to buy a bunch of third party, or I'm going to convert a bunch of, or buy a bunch from GW of shotguns, I'm going to have like a couple of like big bricks of like shotgun guys running around, and then everyone else is going to be prisoners, and each prisoner is going to be given a las pistol and a rattly shank. And do you know what that costs GW to do that? Nothing. A free PDF. A throwaway line that someone threw in a Friday afternoon when they weren't doing anything else anyway. Why can't we have that kind of shit in 40k? Why are these arbitrary fucking boxes that are put around? Because it's not in the box, then we don't make rules for it. Okay, why? Why? I know someone's going to start in the chatting away chapter house. GW doesn't even stick. GW chapter house is fucked, man. If GW is still PTSD from chapter house, they need to get a grip, frankly. I feel like I've repeated myself quite a lot. I feel like I've been talking for a long time. I feel like now it's time to open this up to the floor. I feel like we need to get your opinions. Please, guys, don't hold back. I'm going to capture my super chats. I'm going to keep an eye on my regular chats. But we've got 200 people in the stream right now, okay? I want you guys to share with me your positive and your negative thoughts on 40k. I want you, if you're someone that is moving away from 40k, I want you to explain why. If you've got something that can refute what I'm saying, if like Mordian, you need to look at it from this angle. There's this flavor here. They've added this in. I want you guys to talk to me, Goose. And the 200 people here, it could be one sentence. It can just be, it could be an emoji. It could be anything. But just for a moment, and don't worry about if you get it wrong. And I'm not going to ban anyone for anything unless you say something that's outright going to get me in trouble or anything. Like, speak your minds, share your thoughts, get stuff off your chest. Whether you want it, if you just need to get it out, that's fine. If you're sick of people moaning about 40k, tell us about that. Talk to me, Goose. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. Truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members. So thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bon Vert, Lord Pryor, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Barney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.